The XFL or the USFL? Which one is better? So yeah, if you guys didn't know, our dream of having full year, all year round football might be coming to a reality. So we have the XFL, which is going to be starting next year in 2023, and the USFL, which is starting this spring, and that actually had their draft yesterday. So we have these two new leagues whose schedules don't really conflict each other. You have the XFL is going to start in February when it finally starts. And then you have the USFL, which started April 16th of this year. Definitely, you can watch both leagues. Both leagues will get their attention. But the way these leagues have been going with the AAF and then the XFL of 2020, I do think even with the schedules being different, I do think only one of these leagues will win out. So will it be the XFL or will it be the NFL? So let's start with the XFL. So the XFL attempted to start back up in 2020, but of course, the pandemic kind of ruined that. And this league was a remake of the original XFL, which was in 2001. And that league was wild. You had, to start the game, you had two players running to the ball in midfield instead of a coin toss to determine possession. Almost like kind of like a face-off in lacrosse or something like that. So you had that to start out. Players had nicknames and all that. So that league was more wild. That was really focused on violence. Obviously, when in an era where you're trying to make the league safer, that's no longer going to be the case. The XFL 2020 was a little more conventional. And they actually had some decent rule ideas, like for the kickoff. The NFL is really focused on kickoff safety. And they decided, okay, we're going to put the kickoff team with the return team on that side of the field, and only the kicker will be on the kickoff side of the field. So that was interesting. That might be something the NFL implements in the future. And speaking of which, the XFL actually is partnering with the NFL. It won't be like an NBA G League thing, which I think would be pretty cool, but also at the same time, you can't have players playing all year round. If it was a G League scenario and players are getting called up and down, then a player would have to play in the spring and then immediately jump into training camp to play for the NFL season, and that would just be a mess. So they can't really do a G League thing as of right now with this format, but the partnership will basically be officials and coaches will get training, and the NFL will get to try some new rules in the XFL. So it pretty much is like, yeah, XFL, you can partner with us. That's what the NFL is saying, and we'll just try a whole bunch of rules and equipment that we're not necessarily ready to try in our league yet. So there's that. But I think it's a great partnership with the XFL, and it sets them up for success in the future having that NFL partnership. And then for the USFL, back in the day, the USFL actually competed with the NFL at one point, and it was very popular as a spring football sport. But they got a little greedy, and they moved their sports to the fall to compete with the NFL. Then they eventually sued the NFL. It's an interesting story, actually. They actually won the case, but the settlement they got was literally $3. Look it up. It's actually fascinating. So they get $3, and it pretty much just like bankrupt their league, as far as I understand. But yeah, so the USFL is now making a return, and with two teams, two divisions. And the USFL is actually in an interesting spot too, because they're going to play all their games in one city. Their entire regular season will be played in Birmingham, even though they have all these teams at different locations per se. They're all going to play in the same area, which is a great move for startup leagues. It saves you a lot of money, and then if another outbreak breaks out, they'll be in a slightly better spot. They do have some big names though. Jeff Fisher and Todd Haley are two coaches in the USFL. So they do have a little bit of, I guess, closely say star power. They had their draft last night. And yeah, so you have these two leagues that are starting up. I'm just excited to see football pretty much all year round. If I had to guess, going back to the original question, I would say the XFL is probably in a better situation to succeed because they'll have the NFL partnership. And the NFL has so much control over the football industry. So I think eventually they'll win out because of that. But who knows? Maybe these two leagues can function together. We'll just have to see.